the least geopolitically powerful U.S. state. Tucked away in the northeast corner of the United States of America, we find the state known for its scenic rolling mountains, organically locally produced food, and an open-minded culture. With 620,000 residents, it is the 49th most populous state in the U.S. and is well loved for its idyllic New England charm. It has always been a symbol of tranquil rural life and environmental consciousness. Despite these cultural and natural treasures, Vermont doesn't contribute much to the U.S. economy and is easily one of the least powerful U.S. states. With a smaller economic sector than most states and small geographic size among other factors, Vermont's geopolitical influence is markedly limited. Just why is this state so much behind the others? What is holding Vermont back from being even more amazing? And how did such a situation even come to be? Let's get into that last question first and delve into how Vermont came to be as it is today. This is the story of the weakest U.S. state. This is the story of Vermont. The first thing to understand here is that Vermont's unique history has played a crucial role in shaping its current geopolitical standing. Before becoming the 14th state of the United States of America in 1791, Vermont existed as an independent republic for 14 years. The early history of Vermont is marked by its struggle for recognition and sovereignty. Initially, it was claimed by both New Hampshire and New York. But instead of becoming a part of either state, the region's settlers, led by Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, defended their land and eventually declared independence in 1777. As the Republic of Vermont, it was the first entity in North America to abolish adult slavery in its constitution, demonstrating early on just how committed it was to having progressive values. During its years as an independent republic, Vermont developed a self-reliant economy, primarily based on agriculture, timber, and trade. Its economic praises were shaped largely by the necessity of survival in a challenging terrain and a climate not conducive to large-scale agricultural production. Despite these challenges, Vermonters thrived, establishing a resilient community spirit that persists today. And Vermont's admission to the Union in 1791 was a huge event, marking the first expansion of the original 13 colonies. This transition brought about changes in its economic and political landscape. As part of the United States, Vermont began to integrate more and more with the national economy. Although it still remained largely rural and agriculturally focused, it experienced modest industrialization during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Some industries such as mining, timber, and textile manufacturing even became significant economic contributors. However, these industries never reached the scale found in other states, and hence limited Vermont's economic influence. Politically, Vermont has maintained a distinct identity. It was a strong supporter of the Union during the Civil War and has a long history of progressive politics. This independent streak is exemplified by Vermont regularly electing independent politicians to national office. Vermont's role in national affairs has been consistent with its size and population. While it has contributed significantly in terms of political thought and environmental leadership, its small population and economy have limited its influence in broader national policy and international relations. But now that we have a general idea of the situation, let's discuss just how far behind it is. If we take a look at the statistics, it becomes painfully clear that Vermont is rightfully the least powerful U.S. state. Although there's a lot of factors to consider here, the ones that I'll be talking about in this video are its gross domestic product, or GDP, its population size, the military infrastructure that exists in Vermont, the foreign trade situation, and lastly, how much political influence it has today. The GDP is one of the most important indicators of just how economically powerful a state or region is. It shows how much value of goods are being produced by the state and hence helps in giving an idea of how much income and purchasing power the people in the state will have. Vermont's GDP is one of the lowest in the United States. As of recent data, Vermont's GDP stands at approximately $34 billion, ranking it near the bottom among U.S. states. This relatively small economic output is a result of both its limited population and the nature of its economy, which is heavily focused on agriculture, tourism, and artisanal industries rather than large-scale manufacturing or global finance. Population size is an extremely crucial factor in geopolitical influence, and Vermont's population is among the smallest in the nation, with just over 620,000 residents. This small population limits Vermont's representation in the U.S. House of Representatives to a single member, reducing its political leverage in federal decisions. Additionally, a smaller population results in less consumer spending and a smaller workforce, which in turn affects the state's overall economic vitality. In short, the lower population affects almost every factor, from how much political influence it has to the economic possibilities of the state. Military presence and infrastructure are often seen as indicators of geopolitical power. After all, any state must be prepared to defend itself against an attack. But Vermont has a minimal military footprint and doesn't have any major active duty military installations. This severely limits its national and international military influence, though it still manages to contribute through the Vermont National Guard, which plays a vital role in state and national emergencies. Vermont's role in international trade is also relatively modest. Its exports primarily include manufactured goods, computer and electronic products, and dairy products. However, these do not contribute significantly to the U.S. economy in comparison to larger states. Vermont's geopolitical location, away from major international trade routes, further limits its ability to be a significant player in global commerce. All in all, other countries would prioritize trading with states like California or Texas as compared to Vermont. Lastly, if we're talking about political influence, Vermont's small population and economic size don't allow for much flexibility. Historically, it has had a minimal presence in federal government positions of power, such as cabinet appointments or leadership roles in Congress. Vermont's political impact is more evident in its progressive policies and environmental advocacy, which have garnered national attention but have not translated into any substantial geopolitical power. All in all, most of these factors paint a dishearteningly clear picture in our minds. Vermont is pretty much behind most of the other states in almost all factors. But why is it like this? Sure, it had some tough times during its independence in 1777 and then becoming part of the US in 1791, but it has been 2 whole centuries since that time. It might not be able to compete with states like Texas, but it should still be more powerful than it is today. So what is holding it back so much? Just why is it so weak? Vermont's limited geopolitical power is due to a combination of geopolitical, economic, and cultural factors. Firstly, its geography poses a lot of problems. Nestled in the New England region, Vermont's rugged terrain and harsh climate are not suited to large-scale agricultural or industrial activities. This geographical limitation naturally restricts the state's economic expansion possibilities. Going back to how I started this video, it's just tucked away in a little corner of the United States. This, as I mentioned earlier, puts it away from all the big trade routes and inhibits trading with other nations. Economically, Vermont has focused on industries like agriculture, tourism, and artisanal crafts. While these sectors contribute significantly to the state's identity and economy, they do not generate the same level of economic output or global influence as larger-scale industries found in other states. Vermont's emphasis on small-scale, sustainable practices may be environmentally commendable, but it does not pave the way for large economic growth or significant geopolitical influence. Politically and culturally, Vermont has a history of valuing independence, community, and environmental care over aggressive economic expansion or political dominance. This is reflected in its progressive policies, such as environmental conservation and social justice. Such priorities, while advancing the quality of life within the state, did not necessarily translate into strong geopolitical power. Vermont's small population also limits its influence. With a smaller electorate, Vermont has less representation in Congress and less sway in national elections. This demographic reality, combined with its economic and geographical characteristics, results in Vermont having a minimal presence on the national and international stage. All of this points to Vermont staying as one of the least geopolitically powerful U.S. states. Unless it decides to change its core policies or find a new way to pursue economic interests while still maintaining the environment, it will remain in its spot as the least powerful. Vermont's geopolitical position is a product of its unique history, economic profile, and cultural values. While Vermont may lack the geopolitical influence of larger, more populous states, this does not diminish its importance or the quality of life it offers its residents. Vermont's commitment to environmental conservation, social justice, and community-focused living presents a model of sustainable living that, while not powerful in traditional geopolitical terms, is influential in other meaningful ways. In an era where global attention is increasingly focused on sustainability and quality of life, Vermont's approach offers valuable insights and lessons, demonstrating that the measure of a state's influence is not solely its economic or political power, but also the values and quality of life it upholds. With that, I would like to end this video. If you enjoyed watching, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe.